Yeah, hello, welcome to this talk. It's about from a local esports community transitioning into like a top esports team. I started out here also as an alumnus, studying 3 years here in Gotland. I was in the game design and graphics minor back then. Now I'm working as the head of content for Team BDS. If you follow some recent esports, you may have heard of them. Pretty successful team as of late. And just quickly want to share some expertise with you, and also I think it's important to portray also esports as a valid career path that you can pursue with your education. And this is also why I wanted to share some of my personal experience, and then in the end conclude if you should even consider it, or if I would even recommend that you should consider it still. This is me. Study game design graphics here. We did Symbio as the arcade. It was a pretty successful project. We won lots of competitions with that. And this is me now working on set for our LEC roster announcement video for the competitive League of Legends team in Berlin. This is during my exchange semester in Japan, where I went, I'm not sure if that's still the case, but back for us in our 5th semester, we were allowed to go abroad, got the opportunity, and just passively took some pictures. And why this is important, I will come back later in my talk, but here you can kind of see something. It's all shot with my phone. I just put out my phone, did some basic grading on it. And now I would like to share some thoughts on my journey from a local esports community to a leading organization. So it all started out with Gotland Guardians. It was actually crazy. I founded it together with Leo, a friend of mine. We studied together, and we were just avid esports and League of Legends players, and enjoyers. So we gathered a lot, we played a lot. Back then, the internet in Visby was really, really bad. So most of the time, we just gathered at university together, played some LANs together, or like at home after obviously studying hard. We had some like LANs at our student dorms. It was a great time, and through this, they involved the Gotland Guardians, which was kind of like a university team dispute that we established. We aim to connect just fellow students like us through a common passion, which was competitive gaming, and then connected with other teams in universities. For example, here you can see a tournament that we did was quite European-wide with some Finnish university. There was Liverpool, Freiburg, like a lot of European universities, and competed against them. It's a pretty fun time, and it actually arose into like a big community of like around 300 people, which I think even for nowadays esports teams, it's great to have. If you have 300 engaged people, many teams to this day dream of having such engaged community. And I'm really happy to see that the legacy has been continued. I'm still working on the server a bit, and I see the events you guys are doing, which is great. We obviously have Super Smash, which has been pretty big on the island, I think. We also had Kimi Larsen here with us, who was a actually professional Formula One esports driver. He worked with Team Vitality and Renault back then during his studies. And then here you can see some of the League of Legends championships. There was a Nordic University Championship. We clapped some Swedish unis. It was pretty fun, to be honest. There's some rivalries going on, I think, still to this day, which is pretty nice. So this is all how it started out. I realized during my studies then that actually this is kind of where my passion lies, just connecting with those people, all this project that has been so much fun. And I was thinking after graduating here, maybe I should turn this into an actual career and try it out how to see how it is in a professional setup. So right off the bat, I started working then for Schalke 04 Esports in Berlin. If you don't know Schalke, it's like a traditional German football club, and they've kind of been pioneers in the esports scene, as they were like one of the first ones who actually branched out and were engaging into esports. This is League of Legends. They also competed in FIFA. Obviously, it makes sense as a football club, and Pro Evolution Soccer. And it was really great because Schalke, as a football club, already had a community. They had a lot of young people also, so connecting with those young people has been a phenomenal experience. And for me, it's been great to start contributing from day one. And this is also one of the points that I will dive into deeper later during my talk. But there's actually a lot of parallels between how esports content teams set up and how the student teams here set up. If you've worked in Arcade or Vertical Slice, you're in a really tightly knit team of like 5 to 6 people. And it's exactly the same in an esports team. For example, in the team I work in, we have a graphic designer, we have social media producer, social media manager, videographer, and then me, who is the kind of project manager for the whole team. So as you can already tell, it's kind of the same setup that you guys and I have already experienced here. So the experience you get now is really actually insightful, and also a lot you can learn from this. This also means, though, that you're kind of like a Swiss Army knife in a sense. Although you have people who are highly specialized in what they do, you have to cover a lot of stuff. If you're supposed to run a whole social media content team just with 3 to 4 people, obviously you need to fill out some gaps. And this is why I felt so comfortable also, because I was able to apply a lot of the knowledge I learned here at the education, apply a lot of the knowledge I learned from Gotland Guardians and also like my personal projects. And I was able to contribute a lot and fill out a lot of holes there and work together with the team. It was quite a great experience, to be honest. Unfortunately, Schalke, the football club, they kind of forgot how to play football and they got demoted into the 2nd division. If you're not familiar with German football, Schalke is a very historic traditional club. They were competing for Europe's top spots all of the time, like Champions League, Euro League, and then they suddenly got demoted in the 2nd division. And they were like, hold up, guys, this is not good. We should focus on our core business, which has always been football. And it was not a secret that it always has been football. So they decided to actually sell the LEC franchise spot over to Team BDS. For Schalke, this was a very lucrative business as they bought the franchise slot back then for 6 million euros and they resold it for 27, 28-ish. So they actually made a huge profit out of the whole endeavor. And even for them, for the football club, this was like, compared with the football players, I think the 4th or 5th best transfer they've ever did was this esports team. So it really paid off, but it also was really sad because we had a really engaged community, and especially for the young people, this was seen as a blunder, as it's they kind of see that they're rejecting this investment, and obviously the spot has been, or the slot in the league has been growing in worth ever since. But either way, for me, it was also then time to pursue other chapters while Schalke still competes in the regional German league, even in esports to this day. I kind of aspire to gain more experience into the tier 1 leagues, which I think is where I wanted to be, which is then why I transitioned over to Team BDS. Team BDS was founded in 2019, so it's a fairly new team. It was founded by basically a relatively wealthy guy who had a strong passion for Rocket League, and he was just playing Rocket League with his friends. And one day he was like, "Why don't we make an esports team?" And 3 years later, they are Rocket League World Champions. They won the World Championship last year. It's quite a unique founding story, I would say. And throughout the bench, Team BDS has had a great competitive success, including Rocket League World Championship. So we are the current World Champions in Rocket League. They won a Rainbow Six Siege Fall Major in Stockholm, I think it was last year. They also won some Trackmania events, and as of recent, and the project I'm working on, the LEC regular season in the spring split, as well as the 2nd place in the regional finals. Here you can see the team. Here you can see, if you're familiar with League of Legends, some of the gameplay that I'm working on. So what do I actually do right now is maybe something that I should dive a little bit more into. I'm going to present you some of my projects just to provide you with a bit of context, and then later present to you what I applied and what I learned from this university to work on these projects. First of all, I worked on the visual identity for the team. You've probably also seen a lot on social media. The classic esports pose is getting a bit lame, so we're trying to find new and creative angles on how can we actually portray our team and our players not as nerds, but as something like visually interesting to the community. For us, it was important to like capture Berlin as an environment and kind of like the raw feeling of the team. We wanted to portray our players in like day-to-day scenarios, because they're young people like we are, right? So they're not different in any shape or form. This is also something we wanted to capture here. This is a bit more like a grungy street chic vibe, I would say. We also did some in-studio shoot, again, trying to find ways on how to make, this was with Asus Rogue, like the peripheral company. We were trying to find a way, how can we promote their product without like having a classic ad where they like play on their laptop with their headphones on, because no one wants to see that, to be honest. So we're trying to find a way, how can we promote their brand in like a visually appealing way. And we also tie this into our matchday poster coverage, which is like a nice subtle hint, I would say. Here you can see some other projects that have been really exciting this year. This was our roster announcement, which was our biggest production to this day. There's a whole behind the scenes video on YouTube if you're more interested to see how such shoots go like. We had like a robotic arm. It was quite the high production value, I would say. You can see here on the dolly. Some other projects that we do is obviously voice comms, which is a widely adopted format. And again, we're trying to strive here to push the quality bar a bit higher this year. There's also some inside documentaries about the team, how we function as a team. If you're more interested on how like the team functions from the player's perspective, then this is probably a format that you could check out, and you can learn a lot about the player's function. And then we had some feature pieces here again about our players. This is our top laner, so one of our League of Legends players, had a feature piece there. So these are some recent projects that I worked on. We've also faced the challenge of how can we make a match live post exciting? Because again, on social media, across the whole bench, you basically see the whole post, like the whole spectrum, and always the same posts. And of course, we need to communicate, hey, our match is live, please come watch our match. But just having a simple graphic was really, really low performing, not only for us, but for all the other teams. So it was a creative challenge task to think about, hey, how can we communicate this information, but make it like fun and engaging? And which is why we came up with the entrance skits that you have maybe seen already if you follow the LEC. Basically, we pre-produced video skits in front of the studio and had like different vehicles, different costumes on set. This was against the Spanish team Koi, former Rogue. And we had like a sushi food truck. And actually, this got integrated into the official broadcast of the league. So we went from like an engagement of, okay, this is less than 100 people liking this post, to like a product that got aired on the official broadcast, which has been huge for our brand exposure. Here against the Mad Lions, the Metric Lions, we had like a plush lion or like an ambulance, and we kind of had the meme of call an ambulance, but not for us, this kind of way. And you can see just the engagement, this alone was like 14,000 likes. So we like kind of able to, scale to a whole other magnitude, which has been really exciting. And also it got the recognition, if you know Shocks from League of Legends, one of the famous hosts and presenters for years. Just shouting us out for our rivals, for our setup at the studio has been amazing. So these are some of the creative challenges we face daily. The industry evolves very rapidly, and thus the content also needs to change, because all the teams basically have the same issue. They need to find new ways. How can we make this exciting and engaging to the community? This has been very fun. I can only recommend tune in for the summer split. We have some new cool spin-off of this concept. It's going to be even greater than this one. In total, we produced 18 skits, all with different costumes, different entrances. The casters and the broadcasters were reacting on the live stream. It was a really nice project, I would say. The same problem we had for the results visual. Sometimes they just lose like a simple defeat graphic. And I myself, I'm really not a fan of this, because when I scroll off social media on the match day, I see like 20 victory, defeat, victory, defeat. It's really stale. So we again faced the challenge of how can we make this a bit more exciting. And in the end, we decided to go with a quadrascopic camera, kind of capturing the raw emotion, kind of like a Polaroid, but it's like kind of like an animated Polaroid, just showing like a non-Photoshop, more like raw emotion of the players. Here we can have them against Koi again, here against the Metric Lions. We had some props in there, some popcorn flying occasionally also. And this was also, again, another project where we're thinking, hey, how can we make this a bit exciting? We had like a custom-made beat for victory and defeat underlined also. It's just a bit more production value, and this was also very well received in the community. What has been even more well received, and something that is really close to my heart, is staying close to our roots. I think especially in recent years, esports organizations, especially like the big ones, are caring less and less about the community and their nourishing roots, especially the established ones. For example, I cannot name names, otherwise I get in trouble, but the big ones, I would say. So we're actually at the studio, and all the games are still played in the studio in Berlin. The only team that has like a booth where people can interact with us, can be close to the players and also to our staff. There's some giveaways, some free merch loot that you can get there. Also the same in Malmö last year, and in Sweden, where the finals were. We were also the only non-competing team who had a booth there. And this was back in time when we were at the bottom of the league. We were like last place team, but still then we were committed on building up a community and just giving something back to the people who travel to the events. Same with Berlin. There's many people who travel to Berlin, but just frankly, the LEC and most of the teams, they don't really care. And there's also a big Discord project. If you've been part of Gotland Guardians, you probably know Discord already. So I've been able to gain a lot of experience there. And also with the game design education, we're trying to kind of make like a gamified engaging product here on our Discord. It's a bit similar to a mobile game, so there's a lot of stuff that you learn here in the education that you can apply also in esports. Like how can we make a server interactive? How can we make it engaging? How can we keep users retaining? Like how can we make them come back? These are the same questions you would probably ask yourself also in the game development. So those remain pretty much the same. So yeah, staying close to our roots, really important to me, and I think something we definitely want to pursue more. If you want short overview about different content types, obviously contents are all supposed to be entertaining. It's the same with game. I think it's like a buzzword that the game needs to be fun, right? And in this education, they always tell you, oh, don't say fun, you need to describe it a bit more differently. And it's the same with content. Like you cannot just say content should be entertaining, because obviously it always should be entertaining. But here are some content types. You have the slice of life, where the value is that you get proximity, get to know the personalities, for example, in vlogs, the behind-the-scenes footage. You can have informative content, where the viewer gets like educational knowledge, for example, guides that you can make with the pro players, patch notes rundowns, voice comms from the communication point of view. In some other streams, you can have like humorous skits, where the entertaining value is basically just the humor, meme skits, highlight edits, and stuff like this. And then obviously you have like the big state-of-art lighthouse projects, for example, the roster announcement or like trailers for competitions that you have there. This is basically how our week looks like. We have competitions Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then we have like a whole schedule here of what kind of content we want to release. And it's actually more than you might think. There's, I think, roughly 10 to 20 posts daily across all platforms that we need to think and conceptualize and think about how can we make this engaging. And this is kind of like a quick overview of what we do there. It's hard sometimes, because as you can see, it's 7 days, and sometimes that means no weekend, and that means also long working hours. Of course, we have some off days also during the week, especially during this period, but especially on season, it's actually a big commitment. On the other hand, there's like half a year where there's no real competition, especially for League of Legends. So it balances out in the end. But the first half of the year is always a bit more stressful, I would say. Now I would like to share with you what I learned and what I applied from the education here. Maybe something also very interesting for you to take away. First of all, majoring in game design provided me with a better understanding of how the game works and also the target audience for each game. Obviously, it depends on the region, the socioeconomics factors, and also the platform that the game is played on. But this knowledge that you learn here, or like the way of thinking that you learn here, can also be applied on marketing a game from an esports point of view. Also, minoring in graphics enhanced my skills in various aspects. For example, software proficiency when it comes to Photoshop, but also like After Effects and some of the 3D stuff that you learn here, you can apply later. For example, if you want to do in-game captures, if you want to do like 3D animations, you can actually grab all the models from League of Legends relevant online with tools. I'm not sure if that's allowed or not, but you can do it, and then you can animate them with the knowledge you learn here, right? Which is really nice if you're heading into production of like a trailer or like an in-game focused piece. You also learn a lot just from the theoretical point of view when it comes to like color design, what goes together, what doesn't go together. In the end, if you produce assets for a video game or for an esports team, it's really similar, actually, more similar than some people think. And also, you're like a Swiss Army knife, as I said, even with the education. You have like a broad understanding of like a lot of points. Sometimes you're not the expert in all of those points, but you still have a bit of knowledge in multiple disciplinaries. And this is something that has been really valuable for me also. Because as again, the teams are tightly knit. So if you have experience in, hey, I can do a thumbnail, but I can also like, I don't know, rig or animate this character, or I know some programming. I don't know, maybe some of you in the programming minor, I can set up a Discord bot. I can help our analysts setting up like a scout sheet. I can pull data from an API. This is all the stuff you can contribute to a team, which it's been really nice. Again, animation courses, you learn principles of animation. You can apply this to YouTube videos also, to lower thirds, basically all the animations you do. It's pretty good to know that. Also what I learned is that support is really nice. We did not receive any financial support here from the university, but that didn't really matter because they allowed us to access the buildings, which was a great plus. We were able to use, like, I think the F building just to use the internet there and play together, but also they had like one of the media rooms with good media equipment, maybe even the same you see here in the back, that we were allowed to use for like broadcasts. So we actually were able to do some live streams of our international tournaments that we hosted, and that allowed for a good understanding of how is actually a live show structured, like what do you need to prepare, what do you need to keep in mind, how you keep people engaged, what assets do we need for promotion. And this is all something I learned during my time here on Gotland and as part of the Gotland Guardians, carrying over. And then again, also the photographies at the start was just basically just something I did passively, but then again, I was able to apply it here. Our team was in Korea. I was able just to do some photos of them here, even with Laura Lee, if you know her from League of Legends, she's like a big host. And this has also been nice. So basically, yeah, if you have skills, you're able to apply them in the esports cosmos in some way, shape, or form. And this is really great. What I learned from the project again is that working the working in tightly knit teams, as I mentioned before, the structure is basically the same. So just working for like 10 weeks on both arcades and vertical slice, which I think is still the case here right now, right? You still have those setups. This translated incredibly well to my working experience, and just the stuff I learned, just communication-wise, the soft skills-wise, the collaboration aspect of it was very highly valuable. Most of the time, our production timelines for the projects are fairly similar to vertical slice. Sometimes we have like 5 to 10 weeks to prepare those projects. Just being in the flow already and be familiar with the flow, was super nice for me. And also understanding the community again, if you are able to engage the Gotland Guardians, the whole community here in Visby, all the students, you're actually way farther than you think compared to some of the professional teams. Again, most of the teams, they would pay a lot of money to have 300 engaged people in their communities, even in the tier 1 leagues. So there's a lot you can learn here also with engaging the community. And I think the most important part, obviously, the people. There's a lot of local creative energy here. Everyone kind of shares the same passion, maybe for games or even for esports itself. And just connecting with your peers here who all have the same drive and passion, want to create something together, has been a great experience that you should definitely utilize and leverage as well. Maybe for your own personal game projects or for esports or some other projects. I think some of my peers back then, they did like a farm up app also. So there's like a lot of stuff you can do, but I can recommend utilize and connect with the people here. And also the esports team is very tight-knit also, especially in the big hubs like Berlin, which is, I think, one of the hubs in Europe, as the LEC is there, the Valorant League is there. Everyone kind of knows each other, and words and experience spread quickly. So it's the same kind of like as on a campus, right? If you perform well, people will know. If you're like not a good team player, people will know. So it's very different, very much the same. Important to keep this in mind also. I also would like to share with you what I think the future of esports content is, and also like to address some concerns that arose, some challenges that arose recently, because obviously not everything is sweet as candy, and some trajectories that I also like to share with you. First of all, especially at the start of the year, if you follow esports, you've probably seen a big, like a lot of those announcements. There's been the huge FaZe Clan scandal, I would say, where the stock actually plummeted. There's been a lot of layoffs at 100 Thieves, ZLG, so the whole League of Legends division. I think even the whole org is shutting down. And also for the Valorant, for example, the Guard, they basically laid off every single employee, which has been a trend, as you can see, even for the big organizations. So the question is, how did this happen, and does it even make sense at this stage to enter the industry anymore? To answer this, I would first like to share with you a bit on how does an esports org even generate revenue. So just to share with you a rough estimate, one season in the LEC, so this is just focused on League of Legends, so one title costs a team between 2 and 2.5 million euro. And then you need to multiply this for other teams as well. Obviously, League of Legends is the biggest title in the West. So just the salaries are a bit higher there for players, but still, if you have a team in Rocket League, Rainbow Six, I don't know, CSGO, Valorant, you need to multiply this by like 5 times to get like a rough estimate of how much revenue a team needs to cover just for 1 year alone. And for League of Legends, approximately half of this amount is covered by the shared media pool from Riot Games. So it's kind of like the broadcast media deal. Everyone gets a fair share of the cake, I would say. But this is only half. So the other half teams must cover on their own. This is either for sponsorships, merchandise sales, peripherals, like for example, Fnatic, I think they have their own gear peripheral brand that they've been launching, and other revenue sources. And then always the last resort is the franchise slot itself, which, as you can see, for example, at Schalke and also recently with like Heretics and Koi, who entered the league, holds a lot of value in its own. So this is most often a last resort for the teams before they need to pull the plug. They sell their franchise slot and get some revenue. But obviously, as you can tell, this is a bit inflated and all a bit speculative. And also, generating revenue for a team is not as easy as it sounds. First of all, esports fans are more tentative to be a fan of a specific player rather than a team, especially as the transfers in esports are way quicker than in traditional sports. Sometimes players are only with teams for a few months and then they swap out again, which makes it really hard for the community to connect and sympathize with your team on its own. Also, it's actually more difficult than you think to make a revenue out of merchandise. For most of the teams, it's pure fan service. They are actually losing money on making merchandise. It's just for giving something back to the community. So this is actually really hard to find other ways to generate revenue. And it's the same with the consumer itself. Like us esports viewers, we don't really spend money on the esports themselves. We maybe buy a skin or something like that, but we're not actually supporting the teams that much. Also analog to traditional sports, where you pay for example, for a cable subscription, or you spend like, I don't know, 50, 100 euro to go to a basketball or football event. This is not the same. Like people barely want to spend like 10 euro to watch the ADC live or something. This is just different than the traditional sport in that way. Speaking of revenue sharing, this could actually be a very interesting way on how publishers could tie in the teams a bit more and allow them to have a bit more revenue, I would say. For example, League of Legends does it annually with the team that wins the World Championship. They get like a skin line. But the publishers, they know the skins they sell on their own already. They don't need the teams to sell the skins, which is why there's been a lot of like, in my eyes, quite shady scandals going on where EA already promised the teams from Apex to publish the skins. But they were like, hey guys, instead of revenue share, I give you $60,000 and I keep all the revenue. And obviously the team said, well, that's not really fair. We can do like 50-50. Maybe we can agree on a percentage base. But the EA was basically like, no, we're not doing that. And in the end, instead of having a win-win situation where both EA and the teams would benefit, they just canceled the whole skin lines together. And it's actually quite surprising that this happened not only once, but twice, which just sparks the question, do the publishers even care about esports themselves? Like, does EA care about Apex? Does Riot really care about the League of Legends esports product? Because obviously, League of Legends and those games with the skin and revenue, they have their own revenue flows, but do they really need esports? And this is what I think creates a challenge for industries, because esports in the end is a marketing chain. For publishers, it's simply a platform to promote the game. Like, they don't actually care if like League esports or like Valorant esports goes really big. They just want to promote the product, right? And it's the same for us teams. It's also marketing for us, because through our content, through our performance, we want to promote our brand. And obviously with the leagues, the publisher want to promote their game. And again, the publisher, they don't make the revenue for esports. Esports is like a really, really tiny portion of the revenue they generate. Most of the stuff is in-game cosmetics, if you buy skin and stuff, or like subscription models. So they don't really actually need esports in a way other than for promotion. And then again, compared to traditional sports, like for example, say football or basketball, the publishers actually have a lot of say of what is allowed and what is not allowed when it comes to organized play, especially for grassroots teams. For example, just to share my experience, we wanted to make this university tournament, and we asked Riot, hey, are we allowed to do this? And they were like, yeah, but we have like license deals with our production partners. You actually cannot do it. It's against our terms of conditions. And we just wanted to play with fellow universities, you know, like no one actually cares. On our stream, I think we had like 50 to 100 viewers. So it's not a loss for Riot in a way, but they were still, no, you cannot do it. Obviously, we did it anyways, because no one tells them and they don't care. But they were still like, even for the small project, they were like hindering it in a way. And this is obviously not the case when it comes to football. Obviously in football or soccer in that way, you have the FIFA, you have like higher instances. And obviously if you're at that level, it also gets a bit shady. But for the grassroots scene, you can grab a football and play to your own rules and no one will care. Whereas the publishers, they will actually care even for the small projects, which is obviously a bit of a bottleneck in a way. And again, sponsorships is also a topic that I've already discussed or touched upon briefly. And most of the time, it's actually the more shady sponsors that have the most money. For example, like the crypto exchange. You've seen TSM deals for $210 million for like a 10-year contract. And yeah, this is why I think a lot of eyebrows are raised, because most of the time on social media, you see teams announcing partnerships with a bit more dubious sponsors, I would say, simply because they just have the funds that the esports team needs. And again, there's been a big speculation about the industry's rapid growth. Obviously, it has been growing and it's still filling out arenas and stadiums. However, the revenue streams have not matched this growth. Like, people are just not able to generate revenue as much as they would have liked to at this point, which obviously for a lot of teams, yeah, is a bit of an unfortunate situation, because they have been burning money for the last years and they're kind of thinking, oh, hold up, there's this is not working out. We need to find a new way. Which is also why I would love to discuss with you or share with you my thoughts on what the future of esports and esports content is. And this is something that has been emerging a lot in Europe and recently also in North America. It's basically like the content creator and influencer owned teams. For example, here you see Kamito from K-Corp, which is like a really big French team. Here you see this guy Toast, which has just launched, I think, an esports teams recently in Valorant and also looking to entering League of Legends. And here you see a German creator, which is also a YouTuber, who also created his own esports teams. And they are YouTubers, so they understand how to market something. They already have successful channels. They know how to engage the community, and they know how to make content around it. And thus are also able to attract sponsors, because they already have the connections to their sponsors through their YouTube career. So they already know how to have a successful content business and how to create like a lot of revenue. Obviously, they're still burning a lot of money out of their own pockets, but it's again a great way for them to promote their own personal brand. For example, even Mr. Beast, who you might know from YouTube, he also voiced this interest in acquiring a League of Legends team, because it's like a great way to promote yourself. And it's the same for all those big content creators that you've seen emerge. And again, I think this is somewhat where the future will head into. There will be a lot of teams who miscalculated the growth in the finances, and those will be, unfortunately, leave the industry. But it doesn't mean that it's the end of esports in its own. There will always be new and emerging stuff, and I think the latest trend is just cooperate with like a big face, have like the social vouch aspect in a way that teams are just not like an anonymous brand anymore. You actually have like an established YouTube figure who's been doing YouTube for a lot of years, be like the leader and the personality behind your team. And then obviously you have the crazy content workflows already set up, where they have like cutters for like their YouTube, TikToks, Reels, all of the stuff. They already know how to do it. So this is, I think, something very exciting and something also I wanted to share with you. And also, again, there's a lot of cool stuff happening for like the flagship product. For example, this is Number Studios, which are based in Stockholm, and they do the VCT trailers, and this is all done in Unreal. So if you're in the game design education, especially in the graphics part, this could also be something really exciting to you. There's only a handful of studios who specialize in this. I think there's one in Sweden, one in Norway, and two in Germany. And they basically produce everything for the European esports scene, because they know what to do and they have the connections, right? And if you would like to break into it, I would actually recommend this more over joining an esports team itself, unless you want to be like the Swiss Army knife who does everything. But if you're like a 3D artist, I think those kind of stuffs in Unreal is something you can easily get a decent internship or like even a full-time position in, because they're always looking for 3D people and animators. I think this is really where it's heading to. And then obviously you can always branch out to other forms of content creation, maybe like Netflix or like YouTube videos. If you know 3D and you know how to work with this, and also with the Unreal Engine, I think there's even more possibilities opening up in the future than before. So concluding this talk, I would like to share some thoughts on should you do it too. Again, esports industry is not in a great spot right now, but again, as highlighted, the esports content will continue to be a major driving force. Comparing to where esports content was 3 years ago when I started out to where it is now, you see a massive improvement of the quality of the content, but also of the quantity, like the amount of volume of posts that we conceptualize and post, and the video that we create simply to promote our brand has been on a whole other dimension than it was back in the days. And then again, there's a lot of directions you can go into. If you like 3D and want to work on such projects, I think it's a good path, after your education, to apply for an internship and work on those pieces if you have a passion for video games and the product. And if you rather want to pursue an approach like me, be like kind of like a Swiss Army knife in the way, do everything a bit, not be the expert in any specific thing, but know how to do a lot of things, then it's also very easy to get into an in-house team, because actually building up a portfolio is quite easy, I would say, because for example, for League of Legends, you can download the Ruffle files, you can create your own in-game highlights and montages, you can use your 3D skills that you have, you can use your programming skills to create something that I think you'll all be able to do in a really short amount of time. I think if you just sit down one week, learn how to use League Director in those programs, or also for Valorant or CSGO, you're able to create a really good product because you have like the knowledge edge over like the normal video editor who doesn't really know about the games and doesn't really know about the softwares at all. So this kind of concludes my talk. I hope I was able to inspire maybe some of you. Yeah, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We, of course, have some time for questions.
Yes.
So when you're trying to grow like a grassroots kind of like scene into like something like bigger, where do you think like we should start? Because like of course this is like as Mr. Baron scene is like a year old here. I was wondering like how like some people have expressed like their interest in like having like a university team, for example, and how do you kind of like find the connections to actually like attend university tournaments, be able to organize things between each other, things like that.
So the question kind of was how to initially set up a grassroots community for like new games. Yeah, this is a really interesting question. First of all, for Valorant, you need 5 people who are interested and engaged to form a team. But this is actually what is most important. You actually rather want a small amount of people who are super passionate and engaged than like, a whole bunch of volume of people who are semi-engaged, which is why I'm also quite happy to see all of you here, because you may just be 10 people, but you're super interested in the topic and esports at all. It's way better than having like a whole classroom filled and no one is interested in the end, right? And this is the same approach also for the grassroots scene. You have creative people here, you have the skill also on a really high competitive level of play. If you already have like 3 to 4 people, you can easily start something up. What I can recommend is also reach out to the main campus in Uppsala, because there's a lot of people there. It's sometimes a bit hard to have the connection between this campus here and the main campus, but this is also something we've did at the start. We're like, hey, we have this game design education here. We have like 3 to 4 high elo League of Legends players. Is someone at the main campus that wants to join us? We're playing against some other university. It's fun, you know. And through this, we'll also be able to gain some. But yeah, just being passionate about it and just radiating this aura to other people and just playing together, having a good time together, I think is the best way to start out initially. I hope that answers your question. Yes?
You mentioned that the esports organizations don't really make money on like merchandise. What would you say as a fan is the best way to support your team?
I would say the best way to support a team. So the question was what the best way is to support a team, if not buying merch. Obviously, buying merch is great. It's just that you need to sell a lot of merch to actually make a profit, because production costs of sustainable merch, obviously, you want to produce in Europe, you want to produce sustainable. So just the margins of a merch sale are actually not that high. But obviously, if you like the team, support them, buy the merch, show up at the studio, support them. That's super nice. But also just doing basically the stuff for free without any cost attached, like engaging on social media. I think every team is happy if you share that post, if you engage with it, if you check out the content, if you like just write comments, which always push the algorithm for teams also, and just engaged in the communities. And from my experience, all the esports teams, they're actually very interested, because we all share the same passion to hear from the community what they would like to see, and they're easy to adapt. For example, G2 does this really, really well. They're inviting the whole community on like trips to check out the games together. Obviously, they have a bit more funding for this. But just being like a voice of the community is, I think, the best way of support you can get. Because also sponsors see this, and if they see, hey, they have an active community, people actually care, they are more inclined than, let's say, team XYZ, who has no engagement on their socials. So the best way to support a team is, of course, support them by buying merch, showing up at the events, but also just doing like being there for the games, watching on Twitch or YouTube and commenting is a good way to support. Yes.
Yes. So being passionate for the game, of course, is great. But at the same time, sometimes you might not have the skill to be part of an esports team. let's take Gotland, everyone in the higher rank in esports are pretty much high ranks. So like descendants of Muggins. So let's say as a whole player, do you really think they have a chance of starting an esports team?
So the question was, if you're not at a high level of competitive play, how easy it is to join an esports team. So this is a nuanced answer. Obviously, there's a difference between being on the competitive roster, who competes in tournaments, and being part of the content team or like coaching staff or anything else involved. Because for that, you don't need to be high level. But if you're actually just looking to play competitively, yeah, obviously you need a high level to play at the highest top. But then again, similar to sports, when does esports actually start? Because if we all play a league, like a round of league together, we're technically also esportler, right? Because we just play together, we play competitively. There's a lot of grassroots tournaments also on, for example, tournament sites that you can pursue. Then technically you're already an esportler. So it just depends on where you want to be. If you want to compete in the top leagues, then same with traditional sports, you have to have a high level to compete there. But if you just want to be engaged in the community or be part of like the content team and the stuff around, you actually don't need to even play the game. Obviously it helps, but yeah, you don't need to be. Hope that answers the question. Yes.
On the content side of things, when you're doing grassroots, like what is the most like impactful, like or useful content that we can create as like a grassroots organization? I don't know what I mean by impactful, to be honest, but like like I suppose the thing that like gets new people engaged and also like gets other people interested. Because obviously at the grassroots level, you don't necessarily care for like 100 retweets, but you might be like, oh yeah, I recognize they're my classmate. So like I'm thinking like there's probably a different approach there, and I was wondering what kind of content would probably be best for that kind of.
Okay. So the question was what content I would recommend for the grassroots team to post. From my experience at Gotland Guidance, what worked really well was to organize those tournaments together and also have those live streams set up. It's actually very easy to get into. I think if you just dedicate one day, learn how to use OBS, learn how to plug in the camera. Awesome. Fantastic. And I think this is actually what sparks a lot of excitement, because the players, they see the stream, they're like, oh damn, my game is being live streamed. There's maybe even a caster that's just a fellow student of us just casting over the games. Maybe we are playing even against other universities, and this already creates some excitement. And then again, actually creating the esports content that we do, most of the stuff you guys could do on your own. Also, if you're just like committed, for example, the in-game highlights, you can even have voice comms. Everyone records their mics on Discord. You can edit a voice comm. You can have educational posts if you want, because a lot of people here are actually on the high ranks of competitive games. There's always like someone who's challenger or immortal or whatever high rank. You can sit down together with them, record some videos together. You can use your 3D skill set or your graphics skill set. You can just do some TikToks or Reels, just imitate trends. Again, memes work really well across the board. If you have some campus-related memes that you can adapt to like a format, super content, everyone likes it on the campus, create some sort of unity also. So to answer your question, basically you can do whatever you want. Maybe not the big flagship pieces that like cost like 10,000s of the euros in production, but this is just the top of the iceberg, right? All the other stuff you can basically do on your own if you just have the time and are committed to it, I would say. There's no secret sauce or magic involved there. It's just pretty straightforward, I would say.
We have time for one more question.
Yes.
My final question is, how do you drum up excitement for like a new game? Because it's always like complicated, because like there's no like Valorant for us, it was really easy because there's already like a lot of people who are already engaged in the game. But like if like there's a new upcoming game, or if there's an old game that has like a kind of storied scene that we want to revive, or if it's completely new and we just think that this has a lot of potential for like a fun like community, like how do you kind of create that excitement around like, a new game?
So the question was how to create excitement around the new game that has been released. From my experience, it's not necessarily about chasing the excitement. It's more about naturally see what people want to play. If people here are super into chess and they want to play chess the whole game, you have your audience, you have your community. Don't force like CSGO 2 on them, because that's not what they want to see. You know, it needs to emerge naturally. But then again, from my experience here, there's always been a lot of people who are interested in MOBAs, a lot of people who've been interested in Smash and like FPS, and then there's something in between with like TFT and like stuff that you can organize. But what I can recommend is just listening to your audience. may you be a grassroots esports community or like a professional esports, you just need to listen to what does your community actually want to see from you. And I think that would be the same in your case. And then they already have the excitement and passion, and you can easily build up on that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much once again. I mean,